Hello, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of our series on Python. I guess technically part 3, but 2 minus 0 is still 2. You know how it is. We'd have to take the length, in which case we get 3 for another day. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at something called formatted string literals. Formatted string literals are awesome. They're basically going to make it much easier to basically assemble a string that makes it nice and easy to actually utilize. And you'll see kind of what I mean by it. Now, the cool thing about formatted string literals is this is a relatively new thing that we've had in Python. So one of the problems we have is we get these kinds of things. Let's go ahead and create a couple fake variables here. We'll do dice roll 1, keep it nice and simple. Dice roll, we'll do 5. We'll do a modifier, and we'll say that's a 1. Again, we'll do some D&D action. These are both integer variables here. We're going to be dealing with those a little later. Now, let's say we want to display those in a nice, pretty string. We'd end up with something that looks like this. You rolled a comma, dice roll, comma, with a modifier of, actually only a comma there, space there, and a modifier. And we kind of have something like that. Now, if I were to go ahead and run this code, you will see here, you rolled a 5 with a oops, I do that every time. You rolled a 5 with a modifier of 1. Let's clean that up a little bit to make that a little bit nice. Cool, I like that. I like that a lot. That's actually pretty clean. Now, me as a programmer, I hate the fact there's no positive 1 here because, I like my tabletop RPGs here. Now, these can get very messy. Let's say there's 35 rolls that I need to display all in here at one time. And again, why would you do that? Are you crazy? Well, let's say I needed to do it anyway. This would get very messy. Now, the other problem we run into too is going to be issues with decimals. Let's say we come up with a number here. We'll say pi is 3.14159265359, I think. I always forget. It's been a little while since I've had to write pi. Does it correct me on pi? That'd be pretty funny. Now, of course, if we sit here and said pi is about, let's go ahead and print this one too. I'll do pi, and we go ahead and run this code, and you get something that looks like this. It's pretty messy. So again, this is pretty icky. We'd have to go in here, we'd have to round it, we'd have to clean it, we'd have to print it, we'd have to basically go through, and it just doesn't work for us. There's definitely a better way to do it. The other problem we always run out to, and again, we'll take a look at these later on, is when we want to print a list. Let's say we want to create a list of colors. This is pretty much my standard list because it's just so easy to do. Now, if we were to come in here and actually print this, let's go ahead with colors. Colors, right parenthesis, enter. Let's go ahead and press the run key there. What you'll observe is it prints it nasty, and it looks like this. These are gross, and there's much cleaner ways to display this information to the user. My background is more software development than it is scripting. So again, from a software development perspective, this is not user forward. So we don't do this. So what can we do to make this better? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove all of this code, but I'm going to leave it visible so you can kind of see it. I just don't want it to be running and kind of cluttering up my screen. Now, in Python, of course, if you remember from last time, we can go ahead and hashtag things out. That works great. The problem, of course, is I have to hashtag everything out. That's pretty tedious. So one of the things, actually, I'm going to borrow Pi real quick. Hey, Pi, get up top. I'm going to need you later on. So one of the things we can do, of course, I might as well get our color list too and pop that up too. Don't worry if you don't know what these are yet. We'll get to them later. So one of the things we can do is we can actually hashtag entire walls of things out at the same time. And to do that, we simply go up to where we like to start, and we're going to do 1, 2, 3 of these little apostrophes. You'll see it again when I create a bunch more. I'll do 1, 2, 3 of these apostrophes down here, and you can see it has actually changed color. We have commented out this entire block of code. Now, one of the interesting things is there's actually a built-in shortcut for doing this. Now, if I were to grab all of this code and press control forward slash, my bad. It's again going back to C there. What you'll observe here is it puts hashtags in front of all this. Now, this is cool because I can now press control slash again to basically undo the damage I did. Now, if you really want to have fun, we can come in here and highlight the text and actually do the little apostrophes that you see here. And it does one of those kinds of actions. So I'm kind of letting you sort of, again, play with it a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to be using a formatted string literal. Now, formatted string literal allows us to put the value of variables and play with them, which is even more important, inside of the actual value we're working with. So let's go ahead and show you how that works. So I'm going to go ahead and type in print, and I'm going to use the letter F in front of my quote. Now, the reason I love this is now it's telling Python, hey, just so you're aware, there are going to be some fun variables inside of this line. So I'm going to go ahead and recreate my line that I did up here. I'm I'm going to type in you rolled a. Now we want dice roll here. We want the value of dice roll. We don't want dice roll because that would be the word dice roll. We want the actual value of it. So what I'm going to do is grab myself a curly brackets. This is called a carriage brace. If you're looking for it on the keyboard, find the letter P, go right. You can't miss it. And now I'm going to put in the value of the variable here. You rolled a dice roll with a modifier of, okay, so we can just do the same thing we did here and go ahead and do the carriage bracket like that. Modifier helps if you spell the word modifier correctly. Well, it doesn't. It wouldn't break anything. And what you'll notice here is all this messiness we had a minute ago is now simplified into this one right here. So now if I press run, you will notice it gives me this lovely, perfectly formatted string. Now you're sitting here going, oh, that's not too bad. I thought this was going to be like hard. Yeah, it's hard when you accidentally do that. It breaks it immediately. Now, f-strings are even more useful than that. And that's one of the things I really, really love about them, is they actually give you the ability to do some things to the actual variables themselves. Now, if I want it to be goofy, and like I said, if we want it to be goofy, you can actually evaluate an expression inside of these squiggly brackets here, the carriage braces, if you wanted to. And it's actually kind of neat because, again, if you wanted to do some math and spit it out, you could, for example, say print f. The dice plus 1 would be dice roll plus, we're doing plus 1 here. And again, if I were to run this code here, this is where it gets goofy, you'll notice it actually did the math. And again, these are expressions. This is for something for later on. But you can actually see immediately the fact that you can actually do math in the print statement. Now, I know the pros are going, hey, you can just do that normally. But this is just a little bit cleaner. I'm going to go ahead and hide that one. So that is one thing that f-strings can do. The other thing that f-strings can do is they allow you to actually format the stuff that is inside of your actual f string. Now, there's a bunch of different things you can do with it. You can format it as an integer, you can format it as a float, and you can even join things like lists. So let's go ahead and grab that pi problem here. So let's say print, f, the value of pi almost is about, and I'll be coming here and type in pi, and we go ahead and do one of these. Now, if I run this, one of the things you'll notice is it gives us all these decimals. Now, of course, if I were being a jerk face here, I don't know why I do this. Again, just as an example, you can see, whoa, oh boy, that's a lot of digits. That is a very unpleasant number of digits. I wish we could round this a little bit. Maybe we're working with money. Your change is 70.6858347057501. That doesn't do us any good. We can go to the hundreds place and be pretty good to go. Now, one of the things we can do is we can actually order this little variable to actually be simplified. So to do that, I'm simply going to go ahead and press colon. And that's going to be saying, uh-oh, we're going to be modifying it. So what goofiness are you going to be trying to modify us with here? So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be shrinking this sucker down just a little bit by doing period 2. That's going to be the number of decimal places I want. And then I'm going to use an f. That's basically saying, okay, this is going to be a float. Again, we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but floats are basically decimals. So now if I were to run this code again, one of the things you'll observe is it says the value of pi is about 3.14. See how cool that is? It literally took that big wall of text and it did the rounding for us without damaging the value of pi. You know, if I were to come in here and say, let's just print pi, one of the things you'll notice is it still retains all its decimals. I didn't damage the variable itself. I just rounded it a little bit so it was a little bit more user-friendly for the actual user to be able to see what's going on. Now, if you remember a minute ago, we also showed you a list. Again, this is getting way ahead of us, but it's actually very useful to see it now because once you see it, you'll be like, oh, I've seen this later on kind of a thing. Let's say we want to use an f string to print a list. We can come in here and say f. The list contains, we'll go ahead and do the list here. What do we say? Colors, I think is what it was today. So if we were to run this and run this one, you will see the list contains red, green, blue. That's okay. It's functional, of course, for the 600 things in the list. This would be very long. But again, why are you trying to print the list like that? So one of the things we can do is we can actually clean this up a little bit using the join command. Now, the join command is interesting, because I will go ahead and hashtag the sucker out here. The reason join is kind of interesting is because when we're going to use it, you just have to be really careful with the syntax. So a 50-50 shot if I get it right the first time. Let's see, f string, the colors in the list are, and we'll do my little carriage braces. Go ahead and set this one up. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to do apostrophe, comma, space, apostrophe. So this is what we're going to be joining to each one of our values in it. If I wanted to be goofy, I could put a smiley face in here. I don't know why you would do that. You could. So now I'm going to type in dot join left parenthesis, and then I'm going to type in the name of my list. In this case, I think we call this one colors today because I couldn't think of anything more interesting at that time. So now what we're doing is we're saying take this little comma and join it with each one of the colors in turn. Now, when I run the code like this, you will notice, look at how clean this is. The colors in the list are red, green, blue. Now, of course, you're sitting here. Could you get a little goofy in here and type an and? Sure, you could do that. Red and green, blah, 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 blah. Let me make it even less messy here. The colors are red and green and blue. Imagine how much fun you could have with this if you just went bang, 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 bang. Now, they can see that this is such a useful command, and I use f strings for everything because it is so much easier to use, especially when you're cleaning up values when you're done with them. Now, there are other fun things you can do with this too. Now, you're sitting here going, okay, I followed you. I can definitely get why f strings are pretty valuable. Is there any other way that you could have done this? I'm just kind of curious. Like, how would you do this, 15 lessons from now? Well, we could also do something like this. For color and colors, print color and equals bop, bop, bop. We could do something like that. Let's put a comma just to keep it nice and simple. So now if I were to run this, look at how goofy this is. You can see here the colors are red, green, blue, and we get the bonus comma because, again, I didn't take the time to come up with this as the last item. So you just have to be kind of mindful of how you want to do it. And like I said, this is kind of the more fancy way of doing it if the list gets bigger. But since you asked, again, I don't know if you're asking. I can't hear you from here. Since you were curious, of course, this is kind of another way we're doing it. But that's something we're going to be dealing with quite a bit later on. So as you can see, f strings are very, very useful, very, very, very easy to use here. Again, like I said, I use them for everything. There's other things you can do with f strings too. You can actually build an f string and then print it, which is kind of a fun little trick. But that's something we're going to take a look at later. Enjoy.